Hey, it's Stacy. We are loving my veteran, and this is walking in my shoes. You got to get excuse kind of the way we're all looking this morning. We're um still getting ourselves situated and moving, all this nonsense. So, um, I know there's been a lot on kind of everyone's mind. And I want to take a few minutes to kind of get ourselves together here as we get ready to talk about where we are, where we as people, as spouses of veterans, as a country, as humans. Um, Good morning, Roxanna. Y'all have to excuse me if I don't respond to everything because I'm on regular computer, so it's kind of like um, this morning. This has not been an easy week. I don't think for any of us. Those of us that are spouses of veterans have kind of watched them be in a very strange place, probably since March, and things just kind of keep going and going and going. And I affectionately refer to 2020 as the shit show. That's all I can say about it. It's not been good. And I think that when we did Let's Talk last night, we had a really in-depth conversation about where we are as a country. Where where are we sitting as a country? Let me make sure I have my ringer turned off. Sorry. Where are we sitting as a country? I think that, again, this is not about one side or the other when it comes to politics, but we are so divided. It was so apparent how divided we are. And I go back and I've done some research and I've looked at some things and really paid attention to kind of how we've gotten to here and how our veterans have to feel and how we as spouses have to feel and how we as loved ones have to feel. The basic fact is united we stand and divided we fall. Our country right now is so far apart, and it shows the division here. And I think that that is playing a huge role on our veterans, not what side of the aisle they're on, not what their political affiliation is, just how divided we are. Let's go back to Iraq, um, and Iran and all the places we've been. When when our veterans saw such a division in countries, you had one that our current veterans that we're talking about were fighting at. You had one where you had a country that felt one way and they were under the regime of Saddam Hussein, and the division that they saw in that country, the division that was apparent in that country. Not that you take one side or the other, because both sides believed wholeheartedly in what they were standing for, but there was such division. There was either you're here or you're here. And there wasn't this gray area in the middle where people coexisted and cohabited. And so if you were on this side and not on this side, and you went to get to the market to get groceries in the middle, and you came from this side, the people on this side were going to choose you. And so they have seen that firsthand. They've experienced that firsthand. They have witnessed that firsthand. So, what do you think they see going on here? It is creating so much turmoil in their lives. How many times have we seen on the news where our veterans and our military have been unseen in countries like Venezuela and other countries in South Africa to ensure the election went off the way it was supposed to. We deployed military to help these countries have an honest and fair election. Now we're sitting here watching this unfold in front of us where there are allegations of voter fraud and there are allegations of this and there are things happening regardless of what side you're on that just absolutely make no sense. I'm sorry, I don't care if it would have been the other way around. If there was absentee ballots that came in and all 100,000 ballots were for Trump or Mickey Mouse or whomever, and not one was for the opponent, I would question that. And I think our veterans see that. So we are very divided, and that is creating a huge issue for our veterans. And it starts out not as just our country, but our homes. Right now, we have to become united in our home. I assure you that Carl and I do not get along on every single topic in our home. I assure you there are things that I do that he just doesn't agree with. There are things that he may do that I don't agree with. But at the end of the day, we have to become united in our home. And last night, I think Carl hit the nail on the head when he was talking to Alex last night. He said, home is home. And he said, for Stacy, she thinks of home as our house. He said, for me and so many of our veterans, we think of home as our country. We were defending our home when we were overseas. This was our home. And so they see how we're devolving our home. Our home is crumbling. We don't have to agree. We don't have to 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 be 100% on one side or the other, but we have to agree that there's a core somewhere, that there's a value somewhere, that there is a common ground somewhere. And what they're seeing is we're devolving from that. So yes, they're on edge. We're on edge. You know, I think about my mother lives, I live in Georgia. My mother lives in North Carolina. We've all heard, now I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but we've all heard martial law. We've all heard, go back to COVID, when they wouldn't let people from outside states into New York. What's gonna happen if I can't get to my mom? That creates such fear in me. My kids live 2 hours away. What if I can't get to my children? What if that happens? And I'm not saying it will, but when you start looking at the devolving, and our veterans have seen this happen. When our veterans were deployed, they saw this happen. This happened over and over again. It happened in Nazi Germany. It happened in the division of Korea. It happened in the division of Vietnam. It happened in Germany. There was East and West, and there was a wall that was built between them. This isn't some far-fetched, made-up thing that may or may not happen. People who were living in our lifetime have seen this happen. And so when I think about the edge it puts them on, the edge it puts us on, the situation that we're all facing. I don't care who sits in Washington. I care about my home, my four walls. I care about getting to my mother, who's 8 hours down the road. That's what I care about. I don't care who makes up the rules. I just want to know that if my mama needs me, I can be in the car and go get my mom. And that's what our veterans see. So, yeah, there's tension going on in our lives. There is more tension now than ever in households with our veterans. I have a situation where I have a friend of mine whose husband was just told, hey, all next week you're going to go somewhere else and work. And he's a veteran and he's supposed to go 4 hours away from his house and work and leave his wife and his kids in a world that he's watching devolve, in a situation. This isn't made up. Towns are boarded up. Federal buildings are boarded up. Things are boarded up. You don't think that the fear, whether it's real or not, is going to happen, whether it does or doesn't happen. This man is being asked to leave his family and go to work somewhere else. There's unrest. There's not peace. There's not peace in our hearts. How can you feel united? Good morning, Michelle. How can we feel united when there's such division? How can we protect our home when there's such division? People are being targeted for flying an American flag in their front. This is America, for God's sakes. This is where we have a right to do what we want to do. The U.S. Constitution, I like to have died. The governing, and I knew it existed. And I think back to the person who had the most influence in my life when it came to history was my history teacher, Miss Hattie Suber, who would stand up there and tell you it would behoove you to peruse your notes. And that always meant we were going to have a test. Hattie Suber would give us essay questions. We never had a fill in the blank test. It was always an essay question. And there was never a right or wrong answer as long as you could back up your point of view. That was our freedom. That was our right. And Hattie Suber taught me that. You realize the U.S. Constitution is on 4 pages. 4 pages on the original Constitution on parchment, 4,000 plus words, including signatures. 4 pages, 4,000 words are the guidelines to write the rules and the laws for our country. There are 27 amendments to the Constitution. 10 of them came at one time in the Bill of Rights. That is a little over 1,600 words. The 10 rights that we all have as Americans came in little over 15. And we can't pass a bill in this country that isn't 18,000 pages. The most basic structure for being united comes in less than 6,000 words. And then we wonder why our veterans saw and did compromise their morals, compromise where they thought that they should be in the thought and the brain set and the mindset of defending home. Not our four walls necessarily, but our country. And they're watching everything they fought. They're watching it happen here. And then you wonder why they're on edge. Then you wonder why they're not sleeping. Then you wonder why they're drinking. Then you wonder why they're acting the way they are. Then you wonder why they get upset if we want to leave the house. Then you wonder why they won't leave the house. Then you wonder why they sleep with a gun under their pillow. Then you wonder why when we go to town and we tell them, hey, I'm going to Walmart, and we stop at Hobby Lobby and we come back and we picked up something for Hobby Lobby and they say, I thought you were only going to Walmart. Well, I was, but the Hobby Lobby's right next door. But I thought you were only going to Walmart. And we kind of freak out like, the heck? Because they want to know. They don't want to know because they want to keep tabs on us because there is this fear that if something happens like they've watched happen 1,000 times in other countries, they know where we are, that they know we're safe. You don't unprogram the military to stop being military. You don't unprogram them. They signed up because they had a love of, and I can assure you, ask any veteran today, if this is the same country they loved 10 years ago. It's not the same country I was in 10 years ago. But my ex-husband posted a post on Facebook and said, how long before you're going to Canada? This is a question out there. I'm not. I'm not leaving here. It is my right and my responsibility, my duty as an American to stay put and defend our. It's my right and my responsibility to defend, support our veterans who gave it much so that we could have, the lack of better words, that we've had the past 3 days. It's my duty to do, and I will defend my spouse, my veteran, the other veterans, the men who and women who died for this country every single day. May not be liked. I may cry myself to sleep at night thinking about what they've given up. I may get physically sick at watching what's happening in our own country. But by God, I love it, and I love those, and I love you guys, the ones who are standing here, the ones who are here and becoming a force. We are a force, and together we can do anything. It starts by, and it starts by, you know what? Today he may be in a spot, but I'm not going anywhere. And now I'm going to understand that spot he's in. And I'm going to get angry and I'm going to fight for him who's placed in it. And I'm going to protect my kids. And I'm going to protect my home. And I'm going to find a way that if my mama says, Stacy, I need you, I can get in that car and I can go get my mama. Or I'll walk the 600 miles to get to my mama. Nobody is going to tell me I can't get to my mother. That's my veteran. That's what they laid down there. No matter who wins this election today, best post I ever came across, and I reposted it. It's not going to be Donald Trump or Pence or Harris or Biden pumping our gas or checking us out at the grocery store line. Not in our communities. It's going to be our neighbors. It's going to be our friends. It's going to be the people that we live with every day. And those are the people that we start at the bottom and we love them and we start respecting them and we start doing and helping each other. Has 2020 been a shit show? Absolutely. But if 2020 taught us some things, some valuable lessons along the way, what happened when all of a sudden we had to stay in our homes? What happened when our kids could no longer go to school? What happened when we hadn't, and I will tell you honestly, when I hadn't seen my mom but maybe once a year for the last 5 years, all of a sudden seeing my mom became important to me. Seeing my mother became incredibly important to me. And I made it my priority. Spending time with my family became important to me. And working 100 hours a week no longer was important. I used to think that going out to dinner 3 nights a week was what I wanted to do. Now I'm happy to have a grilled cheese sitting in the house. My values and my priority changed in 2020. My outlook of the world and what's important to me changed in 2020. I learned that things that I thought were important, being able to go buy clothes whenever I wanted, being able to run into whatever store I wanted to, being able to go out with friends, being able just to go and do. I thought that was important to me. It's not important to me. What's important to me is being able to spend time with the people I love. What was important to me was having an hour conversation with my friend on Zoom yesterday. What's important to me, ladies, look, we wouldn't have the friendships we have today. Roxanne and Natalie and I got on a phone conversation on a thing yesterday when I was sitting in the Walmart parking lot warning out people you need to go get toilet paper because these fools evidently think we're going to run out of toilet paper again. You know, we just got Cottonelle and Charmin back on the shelves, and now we can't even find generic toilet paper over an election. That just infuriates me. So I'm really, the only thing I haven't figured out in 2020 is what the urgency for toilet paper is. But I have got developed long-term, lasting, loving friendships with people that I never would have had 2020 not happened. We wouldn't have celebrated with Natalie last night that Tony got his first tip on his belt in jiu-jitsu last night. We wouldn't have done that had 2020 not happened. So with all the bad, look at the good. Look at the great that's coming out of some of this stuff. Our values are changing. We're going back to figuring out our priority, and home is one of them. So I think maybe that's why we're so up in arms about what's going on, because it's more important to us now than ever to protect home. It's more important to us now than ever because now, with the way things have been in 2020, in the last 10 months, we learned what's important and we want to defend it. Doesn't matter who's sitting in the White House. Doesn't matter what the people on TV do. What matters is our home. What matters is what our veterans do. What matters is How many of them lost their lives to protect us and our home in a way I never saw home? It wasn't until Carl said to Alex, home is not necessarily, he said, Stacy sees home as these four walls. As veterans, we see home as the country. I never not thought about that till he said it last night. How many times have we been in relationships and marriages where we might have said 10 words to each other in a day? And now we're having conversations. It may not be the best conversations, mind you, that we may be struggling to have these conversations. We may be trying to find better ways to communicate. And then there's so many questions about, well, he doesn't communicate and this is this and this. Well, hello, because prior to 2020, your conversation may have been a half an hour in your day. Prior to 2020, you didn't see him playing a video game 6 hours a day because you weren't home. Because life was, the ball games were there, the kids' schools were there, the sporting events, the taking your kids to class and dance and going out with friends and going to the store after work and doing all these things. We didn't see all that in 20 prior to 2020. We see it now because we're home. So yeah, we they may have been doing that all along. We just didn't see it until now. So now we got to undo it. We got to refine ourselves. We got to redefine our home. And it's going to take them a while. And now their stress levels through the ceiling. So is ours. Don't tell Carl how stressed I am. He knows I'm stressed. I fight really hard not to tell him how stressed I am. You know when he's going to find out how stressed I am and I can't see my mom? When he watches this. When I have a fear that I can't get to my mama, when he watches this, and I've never shared that yet, is why I add to his stress. Because it's not time to go see my mama yet. We're going in a week or two. So it's not worth adding that extra. Y'all, united, united, we're going to stand. United, we're going to united. Start getting united at the lowest level of your relationships. Unite with your kids. Unite with your spouse. Have a conversation. I know they're hard to have, y'all. When he says, I want you here, I want you there. When he doesn't understand why you think it's okay that the kids go down the road and play. And you're like, they're just going to Johnny's. Let me just explain something. Friend son Rhonda, we've talked about James, my friend Rhonda's son James. We've talked about James before, playing soccer, kid. Next thing they know, the soccer balls. James had no choice but to shoot. How many of our veterans do you think were in that same situation? And then we don't understand why they don't want our kid to go down the road. How many of our veterans watched women shot in the markets? And at the time it happened, they didn't realize it was somebody's daughter. So when we don't understand feel the way they feel. Be blessed. Time. Spend the day staying united with Carl. I love you people. And I'm so grateful that we are here. And we have so much going on. And we will be here as you need us. Natalie did off of the page a video room because she needed to talk yesterday. If y'all need to talk, create a video room right there on the page, the support group page. People will pop on and talk to you. It was great. So even through the weekend, if you need us, reach out. Reach out. We're here. We're a community, and that's what we do. I'm Stacy, walking in my shoes, and we are loving mother. Love this country. God bless.
I think next presidential run should be either Dan Crenshaw and Candace Owens, or Candace Owens and Dan Crenshaw, or Dan Crenshaw and Ivanka Trump.